Welcome in, everyone. I'm your host, Eric, and today we've got college football overreaction. We got a lot to talk about today as we had a lot of football going on from last Thursday all the way to last night's game with Clemson versus Duke. But first, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications and leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of these upset games that we had going on over the weekend. My first game, we had Fresno State beating Purdue 39-25 in a close game. Now, Purdue's not an overall top-rated team, but we all expected them to beat Fresno State. Is this the beginning of something happening great in Fresno State? Let's hope and see as the season goes on. Second on my list is NIU beating Boston College. Now, Boston College, to me, has been one of those teams that has always been on the fence. Are they going to be good? Are they not going to be good? Apparently, they're not going to be good. Losing to a team like NIU was pretty bad. They lost 27-24 in overtime. Though it was a close game, and it was the first game of the season, Boston College for sure should have won that game. Now, even though USF has been downright terrible for many, many years, I thought they would play a lot better. But they lost to Western Kentucky. They lost real bad, 41-24. It's just unexcusable. But it is the head coach's first year there. I can't wait to see if he's able to turn that around. I've been out to a few practices, and I'm really liking what they're doing. But losing to Western Kentucky is huge to start off your tenure there at USF. Next, you had a wild one. Wyoming beating Texas Tech 35-33 in 2 overtimes. I don't know what's going on with Texas Tech. They really haven't done much of anything over the years. They should be up there in the top 3 schools in Texas. But man, they have got nothing going on for them at Texas Tech. Let's see what happens the rest of the season if they can turn it around. But losing to Wyoming, that really hurt them. One of the other games I've got on my list is Colorado beating TCU. And we'll get into that later on in the video, breaking that down a little bit more. But to me, it's not a big stretch as everyone thinks it is. Next on my list is a heartbreaker for me because I'm a Clemson fan, but they lost to Duke last night. There was a lot of talk this offseason about Dabo Swinney bringing in a new offensive coach, and they just couldn't get it done. Now, granted, you had 4 opportunities to score when down in the red zone. You missed 2 field goals that were chip shots, and you had 2 costly turnovers fumbling the ball. I don't know what's going on in there, but that's got to get fixed ASAP if they want to be back in the top rankings this college football season. But man, Duke looked pretty sharp with that new quarterback at the helm. I can't wait to see him the rest of the season. Watch out as he may be a Heisman candidate moving on the rest of the year. And I don't care what anybody says about all these other games, the hype of Colorado, the Duke winning, but my biggest upset over this weekend was Texas State over Baylor. That just cannot happen. What is going on with Baylor? They went from being a really good team to downright bad. They lost 42-31. Seemed like a complete dominant type game. Texas State, man, I wonder if you guys got something going on over there. We'll be keeping a close eye the rest of the year. But Baylor, this coach might have to be gone after this season, if not sooner. Baylor fans, let me know what you guys think. Now, we got a lot of Heisman candidates out there. A ton. I'm not just talking about all them dudes on Colorado, but we'll get into them too as well. My first on my list is DJ Uiagalelei out of Oregon State. And I hope I said his last name right. I always botch that one up. DJ had 5 total touchdowns, 3 passing, 2 rushing. Absolute stud. Sam Hartman from Notre Dame just doesn't get talked about enough unless you're a Notre Dame fan. In 2 games so far, he's got a total of 7 total touchdowns. Let's see if that continues on the rest of the season, and that Fighting Irish are going to be calling his name for being the Heisman candidate for them. Still number 1 on my list is Caleb Williams. 2 games, the dude's got 9 total touchdowns already. He is a passing machine and a magician out there. Granted, they didn't play the best of teams, but as the season goes, he's going to get better. That offense is going to get better. The defense is going to get better. And I think he's going to even put up bigger numbers. So watch out. He may be getting that Heisman Trophy again. Deion Sanders' son is next on my list at Colorado. He is an absolute stud, and he hasn't even done much in the run game department. He had 510 yards and 4 passing touchdowns versus TCU. Unfortunately, they didn't have no ground game to go with it. We'll see if that ground game starts kicking up the rest of the way. Next, sticking with the same team, is Travis Hunter. I had a lot of questions coming in, and I still do. I'm not going to crown him Heisman candidate number 1 yet on my list. I just don't see him being able to sustain playing both sides of the ball all year long. But he had 119 yards receiving and 1 pick, and possibly could have had multiple picks. He is an absolute dog. But I don't even think he's the best wide receiver on that team. There was another cat on that team, had over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. So watch out, because Colorado's completely loaded on that team. Next on my list is a dude that I had from the beginning. He was coached out here by my favorite quarterback group, the stable who trained my son. I've got Michael Penix Jr. This dude is an absolute gunslinger. And he's a lefty, so it's even more fun to watch him throw that rock. He had 450 yards and 5 touchdowns in his very first game this season. Watch out for him, and Washington fans, you guys got to be psyched to see this dude play. He can make all the throws, and he can run. He's going to be one of my top guys to watch coming up in the draft as well. Now, next on my list, I've got Emory Jones at Cincinnati. I've got a buddy who was a Gators fan. He used to tell me this guy couldn't play quarterback at all. But after a stop at Arizona State, now I think he's in the right place with the right system. This dude had a whopping 7 touchdowns this last weekend. That is insane. He had 5 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing. Let's see if he can continue to sustain that the rest of the way. But those numbers are crazy. I don't care who you're playing against. Now, Texas A&M fans, I'm sorry if I butcher this name up, but next on my list, I've got Connor Weigman. This guy came out and balled out as well, throwing 5 touchdown passes. You throw more than 5 touchdown passes in a game, I don't care who you're playing against, you're automatically going to make my list to start off the season. But as you know, Texas A&M, you guys play in the SEC. Can he sustain that against the big dogs? That's going to be the question. Now, one guy I questioned at even being the starter at the beginning of the year was at Alabama's Jalen Milroe. This guy can absolutely flat out play. He won that starting job even though I had the other guy, the backup over there, starting. But this guy has proven he can get it done. He had 5 touchdowns as well, 3 passing and 2 rushing. Can't wait to see him progress the rest of the year and see if he can get Alabama back to number 1. Now, talking about that Florida State versus LSU game, those 2 quarterbacks going head-to-head were some of my 2 favorites on my Heisman candidate list this season. Only one prevailed that day and put up numbers that I see worthy of being on my list this week. Jordan Travis had 4 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown in a huge win as Florida State just dominated LSU. So, Florida State fans, is that just a coincidence or are they really back? And LSU fans, you guys got some issues over there. Is this the right coach headed forward? We shall see. Now, the next topic is Colorado. Are they a real team? Not yet. I'm not ready to crown them just yet. Colorado's offense was absolutely dominant and fun to watch throughout the entire game. The only problem is that they couldn't run the ball because they had to rely so much on the passing. This, to me, goes back to that defensive line and the box play for Colorado. TCU could not throw on Colorado, but what they could do was really impressive to me, and that was run the rock. They ran for 262 yards, keeping them in the game the entire time. That forced Colorado to make sure that they took away the pass, and on their side of the ball, they had to rely heavily on the passing attack to go score to score with TCU. Colorado only rushed for 55 yards because of it. Now, that's great for their quarterback, putting up all those points. What are you going to do when you face a team that has that ability to take your passing game away and still has a dominant run defense? I do like where Deion's got this team headed. Now, I'm not a huge Deion Sanders fan, but that just goes back to his days in the NFL. But what he's building there is something really special. We'll see what happens as that team moves conferences next year. The big key question for me with them is if they do make it all the way into the playoffs, can they go against some of those top SEC teams? Alabama, Georgia, just to name a few. Now, talking about TCU a little bit more, a lot of people thinking that Colorado beating TCU was going to be a hard thing to do. If you look at their history, and from what I've seen, they've really only had 2, maybe 3 good seasons in the last few years. Dating back to 2012, they've had 3 winning seasons, last year being their best season. TCU is not one of those type of juggernaut teams that reloads. So having all their players last year leave for the NFL, I could see the huge dip in talent. They're not like Alabama or Georgia that just reloads constantly every single year. This was bound to happen. If you look at their history since 2012, it's happened almost every other year. Only once have they ever had a back-to-back really good season. So I really wouldn't be surprised if TCU falls off the map this year. Now I'm going to talk about these Florida Gators real quick as my last topic, losing to Utah. Utah was missing starters all over the place. Starting quarterback, few linemen, few defensive players didn't play. But the people that they did have on defense, it was good enough to stop the Gators and pretty much dominate the entire way. I honestly do not believe that the Florida Gators went the right choice with picking up Bill Napier. I just don't see him getting it done there. And frankly, I don't understand why they fired Dan Mullen to begin with. Looking at his record, it was pretty darn good to start off. His first year there, he went 10-3. Second year, 11-2. Both those years, won bowl games, the Peach Bowl and the Orange Bowl. In 2020, finished with an 8-4 record, but that was still first in the East. They did lose in the Cotton Bowl that year. And his last year there, in 2021, finished 6-7, was replaced during the season. That was his only really bad true year there. So I'm not too sure why Gators moved on so fast from him. But now they're back in the same situation where they're losing games. They need a real savior-type coach to come in there and turn that program around for good. So Gators fans, let me know what you guys think about your head coach right now, Bill Napier. So that's it, guys. That's my overreaction to college football here on Tuesday. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think.